I am still just a bill.
As your body grows bigger,
Your mind must flower.
it's great to learn.
Cause knowledge
You sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington.
Welcome back to Historical Quarrels. I'm your host, Tyler Eckhart, and sorry that I didn't upload last Friday. Big boo, big sad. If I had a soundboard, you would hear the woo, woo, boos and stuff. Anyways, I am back from my temporary leave as I, was celebrating Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. You all ate some turkey, and I hope none of you got involved in a civil war. That would be, the most preferable way to enjoy Thanksgiving, I think. So, anyways, this week, we're going over the last part of War of the Roses. I call it Return of the Mad King. You Lord of the Rings nerds, I hope you enjoyed that little reference. I mean, it's a reference, but it's not even a good reference. It's just a cheap call out. But it works, so I'm gonna use it, man. Gonna use it, dude. It's gonna be crazy cool, crazy. But yeah, I am pretty stoked. We're gonna be going over the battles, and then we're gonna be going over some cause and effects. I again don't have a co-host this week. I hope you guys are good with just listening to me rant and ramble through this. Also, maybe tell some jokes. Also, maybe go over some of the Mad King's weird sexual habits again, not liking being naked in front of, or not liking having naked ladies in front of him. I get it. It's nerve-wracking, but holy shit, dude. That guy brought you that gift. I mean, I guess, back then that might have also been kind of rapey, so maybe good for him if you decide not to do that based off, moral grounds. Good for that guy. Anyways... I'm going off on tangents here. I have ADHD, so if you can't tell, I'm going to be a little fast and loose this episode because I'm pretty sure my meds are wearing off. I also got put on some, the blood pressure relievers or blood thinners. I don't know, but it makes me a little loopy. But my heart rate has never been so low. I'm usually in the hundreds, and my heart rate is at 80, and it feels awesome. Not gonna lie. So let's get into it, man. I'm stoked. Okay. Oh man, shit. Good day, class. I got a headache. Let's get into it. All right, just sit down and let's get into this shit. So, quick recap. Last week, we went over the first battle, which was the Battle of St. Albany. And the day after that is where King Henry VI decided to have his little Love Day festival. And that pissed everybody off even more. So that brings us into the second battle. So, after the first Battle of St. Albans in 1455, an uneasy peace held in England. And by uneasy, they mean real fucking uneasy because imagine being forced to hold hands with people you fucking hate. And then, you have to, obey that king who decided to come up with that dumb fuck order. I don't know why he wasn't just dethroned so much. Actually, I do know, because of his queen. His queen was vicious, and she was trying to kill everybody that stood in her way. Anyways, attempts at reconciliation between the houses of Lancaster and York enjoyed marginal success. Marginal at best. Yeah, I at the most, I think they, Richard and Henry maybe looked at each other. And that was it. They just shared a glance, and, I bet King Henry was like, oh, well, that's very nice. Very nice of him. I got a nice little glance, and I think everything's fine, guys. We're not gonna have any problems this war now. I'm very lucid again for no fucking reason too. After I made everyone hold hands and shit. Anyways, I'm going to not ply my wife and pretend that it's me when someone else does it, and then I totally have a kid with her. Yeah. However, both sides became increasingly wary of each other, and by 1459 were actively recruiting armed supporters. So, not even 4 years. 4 years later, both sides were like, okay, we need armies. Because, like, I see these guys, I'm pretty sure they're going to try and fuck me up. So, Queen Margaret of Anjou continued to raise support for King Henry VI, amongst noblemen, distributing an emblem of silver swan to knights and squires, enlisted by her personally. She built her own fucking personal army, which is so impressive especially for a lady back then. I mean, like, even a queen, just like, she was so badass. She got her own fucking army, whilst the Yorkist command under the Duke of York was finding plenty of anti-royal support despite the severe punishment for raising arms against the king. I mean, sure, there's like severe punishment, but if you're pretty sure you're going to win the fucking war, why not? Because you're not going to get punished then. Who the fuck's going to punish you when you're in charge? Whatever. The Yorkist force based at Middleham Castle in Yorkshire, led by the Earl of Salisbury, needed to link up with the main Yorkist army at Ludlow Castle in Shropshire. She's definitely not like the Shire and Lord of the Rings. A lot more, gross looking, to be honest. Anyways, as Salisbury marched southwest through the Midlands, the Queen ordered Lord Audley to intercept them. And this is where the Battle of Blore-Heath begins. Audley chose the barren heathland of Blore-Heath to set up an ambush. On the morning of the 23rd of September, 1459, a force of some 10,000 men took up a defensive position behind a great hedge on the southwestern edge of Blore-Heath, facing the direction of Newcastle under Lyme to the northeast, direction from which Salisbury was approaching. Yorkist scouts spotted Lancastrian banners over the top of the hedge and immediately warned Salisbury, because they saw the fucking banners and were like, well, those dumbasses got spotted real quick. I guess this is like before guerrilla war tactics were really used. This is still back in the days of like marching up, loudly proclaiming to your enemy that you're there. It's just fucking stupid, by the way. That's why the Vikings kicked so much ass. They just kind of showed up, wrecked shit, and left. And people were like, they weren't honorable. They didn't fight me fairly. Of course they didn't fight you fairly, you dumbass. Who would do that? Like, honestly, who? It's ridiculous to expect. Anyways, as they emerged from the woodland, the Yorkist force of some 5,000 men realized that a much larger enemy force was awaiting their arrival. Salisbury, instead of disbanding or withdrawing his army, immediately arranged his troops into battle order, just out of range of the Lancastrian archers. To secure his right flank, he arranged the supply of wagons in a defensive langar, a circular formation to provide cover to the men. Fearing a rout, Yorkist soldiers are reported to have kissed the ground beneath them, supposing this would be the ground on which they would meet their deaths. They were prepared to fucking die. Balls of steel that they kept going. I guess it was like, die during battle or die getting beheaded later for, betraying your king. So, either way, they were fucked. God damn. The two armies were separated by about 300 meters on the barren heathland. A steep-sided, wide, and fast-flowing brook ran between them. The brook made Audley's position seemingly impenetrable. Initially, both leaders sought unsuccessfully to parley in an attempt to avoid bloodshed. In keeping with many late medieval battles, the conflict opened with an archery duel between the longbows of both armies. Which, back then, that's very common. You'd open up using your archers, which made no fucking sense to me. I think, honestly, personally, the way I see it, what you do is you send in a fake squad of soldiers. You send in like your horses and shit just to like, have them waste their arrows. Meanwhile, you're having secretly around 500 to 600 men on both sides go around your enemy, and then you surprise attack them from the rear using spears and shit. And then as they're, running towards you, that's when you shoot your arrows at them so you're not wasting as many arrows as they would be. I should be in charge of armies back in the day. I would have fucking murdered everyone. That's a lie. I would have died immediately, I'm sure. But yeah, so after the longbows happened at Blore Heath, this proved inconclusive because of the distance between the two sides. I mean, 300 meters is long. That's like you lift up your fucking bow and arrow, you pull back, and then you pray to God that it goes somewhere and doesn't like fall down on you, because that'd be a long shot indeed. You need like fucking catapults and shit to really hit over there. Salisbury, aware that any attack across the brook would be suicidal, employed a ruse to encourage the enemy to attack him. He withdrew some of his middle order just far enough that the Lancastrians believed them to be retreating. The Lancastrians launched a cavalry charge, like I said, but again, you don't want to actually have people on there. You just send the horses with some dummies on it. Fucking. After they had committed themselves, Salisbury ordered his men to turn back and catch the Lancastrians as they attempted to cross the brook. It is possible that the order for this Lancastrian charge was not given by Audley, but it had the effect of turning the balance in favor of Salisbury. The charge resulted in heavy casualties for the Lancastrians. Fucking duh, because you don't send your men immediately. If you're going to do that, you send fake people to distract while you try and rout your enemy, which is what they could have done. They could have totally routed the fucking Yorkists and like won immediately. It would have been so quick. The Lancastrians withdrew and then made a second assault, possibly attempting to rescue casualties. However, this fucking failed. The second attack was more, successful, with many Lancastrians crossing the brook. This led to a period of intense fighting, which Audley himself was killed. So, possibly by Sir Roger Kynaston of Middle and Hordley. So, Salisbury, which knew the sleights, strategies, and policies of warlike affairs, suddenly returned and shortly encountered with Lord Audley and his chief captains, ere the residue of his army could pass the water. The fight was sore and dreadful. The Earl, desiring the saving of his life and his adversaries coveting his destruction, fought sore for the obtaining for their purpose, but in conclusion the Earl's army, as men desperate of aid and succor, so eagerly fought that they slew the Lord Audley and all his captains and discomfited the remnant of his people. The death of Audley meant the Lancastrian command fell to the second command, Lord Dudley. And this is not like Dudley, like from Harry Potter and shit. This is a very different Dudley. This Lord Dudley kind of sucked. He ordered an attack on foot with some 4,000 men, as this attack also failed, because again, Dudleys fucking suck. Some 500 Lancastrians joined the enemy and began attacking their own side. Oh man, think about that. After your captain's killed, then you get past a fucking Dudley, and you're just like, nah, dude, fuck that. Fuck you guys. Fuck all you guys, actually. I'm gonna start killing my own people. Oh, man, imagine sucking that hard. As at this point, all remaining Lancastrian resistance collapsed, and the Yorkists had only to advance to complete the rout. The rout continued through the night, with the Yorkists pursuing the fleeing enemy for miles across the countryside. At least 2,000 Lancastrians were killed, with the Yorkists losing nearly 1,000, but gaining 500. So, pretty massive W for the Yorks right here. The aftermath, Salisbury was concerned the Lancastrian reinforcements were in the vicinity and was keen to press southwards towards Ludlow. He made his camp on a hillside by Market Drayton that later took the name Salisbury Hill. According to Gregory's Chronicle, Salisbury employed a local friar to remain on Blore Heath throughout the night and to periodically discharge a cannon in order to deceive any Lancastrians nearby into believing that the fight was continuing. Smart, honestly. Keep your enemy fucking guessing. So, after that, we get into the Battle or Rout of Ludford Bridge. This is the third out of 15 fucking battles. Get ready, guys. We're going in depth. Listen, when I say in depth, I mean fucking depth. I mean, this is going to have so much depth and character to it. You're going to be, you're thinking you are actually listening to King Henry VI, Part 3. by William Shakespeare, by a masterclass actor that I definitely am not in, or that I am not. Otherwise, I'd be making way more money, and I would feel way more financially secure in these troubling times. Also, anyone that has lost their jobs recently, I'm sorry, that sucks. Seriously, it's awful. I hope you guys are able to get on your feet. Yeah. Anyways. So, the battle route of Ledford Bridge. In the first pitched battle of the wars, First Battle of St. Albans, as we've talked about, Richard York was backed by his brother. Anyways, because of all that, Henry's queen, Margaret of Anjou, suspected that Richard ultimately intended to supplant her infant son, Edward of Westminster, Prince of Wales, and become king himself. She continually plotted and agitated against Richard and the Nevilles, the Earls of Salisbury and Warwick. She was supported by several nobles, many of them the sons of York's opponents who had died at St. Albans. So they're pissed about what the fuck happened at St. Albans, and they didn't like the Yorks were, fucking shit up. Also, by the plots, it is pretty well known she was like sending assassins and other shit towards Richard, and Richard honestly was kind of badass because he was like either avoiding them or fucking killing them. So, go both of them, I guess. It's just very interesting because they're both very smart and very careful opponents with each other. The renewed outbreak of open warfare was precipitated by some high-handed actions by Warwick, who held the post of captain of Calois in late 1458. He had led ships from Calois in attacks on merchant ships from Lubeck and Spain on obscure grounds of acknowledgement of English sovereignty in the Channel to secure plunder to pay his garrison. So he would plunder those fucking ships like a fucking pirate. Through these actions, though these actions infuriated the royal court, they were popular among the merchants, particularly in London and Kent, as they removed competitors for English trade with Flanders. They're like, fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for taking out our competitors. Fucking hate those pricks. We're making more money now. Awesome. Keep fucking people up. I love it. When Warwick was summoned to London to explain his actions before the King's Council, there was violence between Warwick's retinue and his royal household. Warwick claimed that his life had been threatened, and he returned to Calois without any charges unanswered. So he just didn't he was like, fuck you guys, I ain't gonna listen to this shit. I'm a pirate, motherfucker. And just walked out like a badass. Margaret took this to be an open defiance of Henry's authority. She had long before persuaded Henry to move the court from London to the Midlands, where her supporters had the most influence. They began mustering their forces and summoned a council to be held in Coventry on the 25th of June, 1459. York, Salisbury, Warwick himself feared that they would be arrested for treason if they went to their opponent's heartland and refused to attend, obviously. They were quickly indicted for rebellion. And this is what caused the other two battles, honestly, because they were, the queen was like, okay, Henry, babe, listen up. I'm going to need you to fucking man up here and use your balls a little bit, unlike you haven't been. That's why I've been having to fuck this fucking Tudor dude over here. The Yorkist forces began the campaign, dispersed over the country. York himself was at Ludlow in the Welsh Marches. Salisbury was at the Middleham Castle, North Yorkshire. Warwick was at Calois. As Salisbury and Warwick marched to join the Duke of York, Margaret ordered a force under the Duke of Somerset to intercept Warwick, and another under James Touchet, 5th Baron of Audley, to intercept Salisbury. Warwick successfully evaded Somerset, and with Audley's forces being routed at the bloody Battle of Blore-Heath that we just went over. Even after the defeat, the forces available to Henry and Margaret outnumbered the Yorkist combined armies by 2-1. So they had double the fucking manpower, but the Yorks were fucking them up still. The Yorkist army tried to move towards London, but found their path blocked by the Lancastrian army, with King Henry himself nominally at its head, and fell back to Worcester. Oh my God. Worcester. Here, the Duke of York attended Mass in the cathedral before sending written protestations of his loyalty to Henry, these were ignored, obviously. Because, oh man, he must have like gone to church and just felt a little guilty. So he was like, here, I'll just send him this shit and see if like he'll just surrender. The Yorkists, you can only imagine this letters like, dear Henry, fuck you, first of all. I fucking hate your guts. However, all this blood and all the other people dying, definitely not worth it. All right? So if you aren't as fucking crazy as you seem, you'll accept this as like, a truce. And we're not going to fuck each other up further, right? And the queen was probably like, don't listen to him, babe. We can fucking take him out. Trust me, I've got this. I've got an army. We're gonna fuck him up. But more in like a French accent where she was like, we are going to fuck him up. Sorry, French listener from the one French place that I saw. Anyways, the Yorkists retreated towards Ludlow before making a stand at a fortified position near Ludford, Shropshire on the 12th of October. Their troops excavated a defensive ditch in a field on the opposite side of the river Teme from Ludlow, near the bridge which gave the battle its name. They also constructed barricades of carts in which cannon were emplaced. However, morale was low. Not least because the royal standard could be seen flying in the Lancastrian army, and it was known that King Henry himself was present in full armor. So that does gotta fuck up your morale a little bit, right? For much of his reign, Henry had been regarded as an ineffectual ruler, and he had even lapsed into madness for periods of several months at a time. Richard of York and his supporters had maintained that they were opposed only to Henry's evil counselors. Now they realized that their army would probably refuse to fight against an army which included Henry himself. Henry and the Duke of Buckingham, in command of the royal army, proclaimed the offer of a pardon to any who would change sides, which is pretty wild. Among the troops brought by Warwick from Calais were 600 men led by Andrew Trollope, an experienced soldier. During the night, Trollope and his men and others from Yorkist forces defected to the Lancastrians. So we had another little flip-flop here. Faced with certain defeat, York, Salisbury, and Warwick announced that they were returning to Ludlow for the night. They then abandoned their armies and fled into Wales. Which, I get it. Because again, the way they're getting, rallying everybody up, they're like, no, we don't want to fuck up Henry. We just, want to get rid of his evil counselors because they're the ones who are like manipulating and making him do all this crazy shit. In all reality, they knew it was fucking Henry. And also, it is so during once the Yorkist forces had switched over sides to the Lancastrian army, they were immediately faced with the king thanking them personally, and apparently was spouting mad phrases, some of which were, let me pull these up. Right, so the random things he would say were, the Star Death Rug archive shelter immune equation ride, on to the risk of our champions, right? Yeah, so, and then also things of like, it's rather astonishing how our crew can stake a weapon to occupy and touch, the forecast of things that make us sigh. And also, I once had a park that had an extension-friendly divided rape, that embarrassment prediction, and farewell to myself. He was then recorded to have been singing this song. The song goes like this. I did my best to notice when the call came down the line up to the platform of surrender. I was brought, but I was kind, and sometimes I get nervous when I see an open door. Close your eyes, clear your heart, cut the cord. Are we human or are we dancer? My signs is vital, my hands are cold, and I'm on my knees looking to suck a dick. And so, needless to say, a lot of those troops were a little upset by the choice that they had made. But after they heard about, Richard and all them abandoning the army, they're like, no, we did the right thing. Anyways, at the dawn on 13th of October, the leaderless Yorkist troops knelt in submission before Henry and were pardoned. York had abandoned not only his troops, but also his wife, Cecily Neville, Duchess of York, and his two younger sons, George and Richard, and his youngest daughter, Margaret. By popular account, they were found standing at the Ludlow Market Cross when the Lancastrians arrived. They were placed in the care of the Duchess's sister, Anne, wife of the Duke of Buckingham. The Lancastrian troops proceeded to plunder Ludlow, becoming drunk on looted wine and committing many outrages, including ravaging quite a few of the people there. So, by ravaging, that means rape. So, yay, Lancastrians, you fucking suck. Oh, God. Anyways, the aftermath of this would just be York, with his second son Edmund, Earl of Rutland, made his way to Ireland, where he had previously been Lieutenant of Ireland and still had support from the Irish Parliament. Salisbury, Warwick, and York's eldest son Edward, Earl of March, went to South Wales, where Warwick had estates and supporters. They took a ship, also intending to reach Ireland, but were blown across the Bristol Channel to the West Country, where a supporter, Sir John Denham, loaned them a boat which took them to Calais. On the 9th of October, King Henry had appointed the Duke of Somerset to replace Warwick as captain of Calais. However, Warwick was able to forestall him, possibly only by hours, under his uncle, Lord Fauconberg. Yeah, okay, that's a great name. The garrison and city still supported him. King Henry and his armies, meanwhile, returned to Coventry, where a parliament packed with Queen Margaret supported attainted York, Salisbury, and Warwick, and the remaining supporters. They also proceeded to have an orgy where everyone cucked King Henry. Literally everyone fucked Queen Margaret. They lined up, and the Queen was very happy to, let them, come in and try and show King Henry what the fuck to do, because she was still upset that he hadn't fucking really done anything to her. He's like, okay. She's like, see this hole? This is called the lips. This is my pussy lips. All you need to do is you just get your dick a little hard, and, well, more than a little hard. You get your dick hard, okay? You can get some pre-cum on it. I can spit on it for you if you want, and then you insert it in. See, everyone else is fucking doing it. Why can't you do it? Just fuck me, damn it. Just fuck me. So, pretty awesome party, for the Queen. However, it proved impossible for the Earl of Wiltshire, who was appointed Lieutenant of Ireland in Richard of York's place, to raise troops to oust York from Ireland, because everyone in Ireland loved fucking York. I should probably clarify. They didn't love fucking him. They fucking loved this guy. He was cool. But maybe they did like fucking him. I don't know. Do you know? No one knows. They kept it hidden from us. It's been a secret this whole time. Richard fucked all of Ireland, and no one knew. Holy fuck. Holy fucking fuck. No, at least we don't know. But yeah, so... so Warwick was able to sail Ireland, evading royal ships commanded by the Duke of Exeter to concert plans with the Duke of York. Although it appeared that the country had been united behind King Henry at the time of the rout of the Ludford Bridge, within a short time, the behavior of Henry's court had prompted many complaints that Lancastrian favorites were enriching themselves at the expense of the king and populace, and were failing to prevent the spread of lawlessness. It was these grievances which Richard of York had first used as pretext to take arms against Henry's court in the early 1450s. Within 6 months of the confrontation, Warwick was also able to land at Sandwich in Kent with popular support from London and the southeast of England. He then marched into the Midlands, and aided by Chetry in the Lancastrian army, he captured King Henry at the Battle of Northampton, which we're going to, talk about. Which is just fucking crazy, by the way. I want you guys to to just picture it this. Lancastrians essentially were giving money to rich people to keep them rich and happy, and they loved it. And then everyone else was like, yo, you're fucking over all the peasants, you're fucking over all these other people, and you're gonna piss them off. The money needs to be done correctly by like their merits, by like what they work on. And the king, well, mainly the queen was like, nah, fuck you guys. Nah, fuck off. I don't care about you people. I just care about my husband and my kids, and that's it. Man, she is so Cersei. That's fucking crazy. And the orcs were like, I fucking hate all of you. You all suck. And they also wanted money. So, you know, maybe not as noble of a purpose. Like, they weren't saving people. They're kind of just looking after themselves. And maybe a few of their peasants. That's it, though. All right, here we go. We are into the Battle of Northampton, which is a very significant battle. After the disintegration of the Yorkist army at Lutford Bridge in 1459, huge win, by the way, mostly done by the Queen because she, you know, gathered that fucking army herself because she's a badass. Many of the Yorkist commanders went into self-imposed exile. The Duke of York and his second son, Edmund, Earl of Rutland, retired to the relative safety of Dublin, Ireland. His principal supporters, the Earl of Warwick and his father, the Earl of Salisbury, and York's son Edward, Earl of March, reached Calwa on the 2nd of November, 1459, where Warwick found his uncle, Lord Falkenberg. In England, the Lancastrians were quick to exploit the Yorkist flight. The Earl of Wiltshire was appointed the Lieutenant of Ireland, and the Duke of Somerset became Captain of Calwa. Neither, however, succeeded in occupying their new posts, as the Irish refused to dislodge York, and the gates of Calwa remained firmly closed to their new captain, quote unquote, because they were like, no, this guy fucking sucks. You guys are dumb. Anyways, Lancastrians gave Somerset an army to storm Calwa, but they first had to cross the Channel. So the construction of a fleet was started at Sandwich in Kent. In January and May 1460, Warwick made raids on Sandwich and stole the ships. Which, by the way, every time I read it, it's like, I just think that they're just raiding a giant fucking Subway sandwich. they're stealing fucking, you know, little bacon bits, a little bit of turkey sometimes, you know, because sometimes you want to get like their, you know, like turkey sandwich. I myself am a big fan of their BLTs, but then I do a little bit of yellow peppers. Holy fuck, I want a sandwich right now, actually. That sounds really fucking good. All right, guys, BRB. So I went ahead and got myself a Subway sandwich. Anyways, in June, the Lancastrian invasion was preempted by an attack on Sandwich, which had been reinforced with several hundred Lancastrian troops commanded by Osbert Munford. The Yorkist force under Lord Falkenberg, Sir John Wenlock, and John Dyneham seized the port, capturing troops and armaments. Munford was captured, taken to Risebank Tower, and executed. Warwick left his uncle, Lord Falkenberg, in Sandwich with a small force of Yorkists to act as a bridgehead for his planned invasion of England. So, on the 26th of June, Warwick, Salisbury, and Edward landed at Sandwich with 2,000 men at arms. King Henry VI and his Queen Margaret of Anjou were at Coventry with their small army. Warwick entered London on July 2nd with an army of supporters numbering approximately 10,000, which is pretty fucking dope. The king's forces took up defensive positions at Northampton in the grounds of De la Prée Abbey. They had constructed an artillery fortification in what is now a mixture of public park and golf course. So, if you're ever up there in De la Prée Abbey and playing golf, just remember, thousands of people fucking died there. The position was surrounded by natural watercourses, tributaries of the River Nene. Backed by a palisade and gun positions, the defending army was around 5,000 strong, consisting mainly of men-at-arms. The Lancastrians also had some field artillery. While approaching, Warwick sent a delegate to negotiate with the king on his behalf. The Lancastrian commander, the Duke of Buckingham, replied, "The Earl of Warwick shall not come to the king's presence, and if he comes, he shall die." I imagine he just talked like that because, again, anybody that's the Duke of Buckingham probably does talk like Skeletor or just an asshole. Sorry, it's good stuff. During Warwick's advance to Northampton, he was twice more denied access to the king's person. Once in position, he sent a message to the king saying, at the second hours after none he would speak with him or else die in the field. Legit how it's spelled. At II hours, and it's spelled HOWRES, which I don't know. Maybe that's how you spelled it. Or maybe he was just really fucking bad at spelling. Or maybe he's... is he Scottish? Let's see. Scotland laddie. At the second hours afternoon, he will speak him, or else die in the field. Nah, I can't. Scotland. I forgot how I did. I forgot how I did it. I did it for one episode. Go back to the Highland suck. The Macbeths and the MacDonalds, or no, the Campbells and the MacDonalds. That was the one where I did my Scottish accent. It was a little better back then because I was listening to Scottish people the entire time. And at 2 o'clock, the Yorkists advanced. The men were in column, but the hard rain blowing in their faces somewhat hindered them. As they closed with the Lancastrians, Warwick was met by a fierce hail of arrows. But the rain had rendered the Lancastrian collection of cannon quite useless. When Warwick reached the Lancastrian left flank, commanded by Lord Grey of Ruthin, treachery ensued. Grey had his men lay down their weapons and simply allowed the Yorkists to have easy access into the camp and beyond. Fuck yeah, so much betrayal in this war. It's awesome. This treachery was the result of a secret message from Lord Grey to March saying that he would change sides if the Yorkists would back him in a property dispute with Henry Holland, 3rd Duke of Exeter, his maternal cousin. Certainly Warwick had ordered his men not to lay violent hands on ordinary soldiers, especially those wearing the black ragged staff of Lord Grey's men. There may have also been inducements and promises of high office by Warwick. Grey became Treasurer of England in 1463. After this, the battle lasted a mere 30 minutes. Dude, there's so much Game of Thrones betrayal shit in here. I'm like 90% sure George R.R. Martin read through fucking just this, the War of the Roses, and was like, that's good. Okay, so we'll have the Starks get betrayed here, and then we'll flip around and have the Lannisters get betrayed here again, and fuck them up. Actually, George R. Martin's a little higher pitched. I have a high pitched voice, but I don't know. I mean, like, I guess this is my normal voice. I feel like I'm kind of pitching it up while I'm talking for you guys, so. Maybe I could just talk more normal, and it'll sound better. I don't know. Let's see. It doesn't sound better. It fucking sucks. I'm just kidding. No, it sounds fine. I sound okay. But yeah, it's anyways, the defenders were unable to maneuver inside the fortifications and fled the field as their line was rolled up by attacking Yorkists. The Duke of Buckingham, the Earl of Shrewsbury, Lord Egremont, and Lord Beaumont all died trying to save Henry from the Yorkists closing in on his tent. 300 other Lancastrians were slain in battle. King Henry VI was captured by an archer, Henry Montfort. So, I bet that archer got a ton of pussy that night. I bet he fucking was like, yo, I caught the king, motherfucker. Everyone suck this dick. Everyone suck this dick. Yeah, as one does. Anyway, in the aftermath of this, Henry was found in his tent by Warwick, March, and Fauconberg, showing him proper respect. They escorted him to De la Prée Abbey, then Northampton, and finally London, where the Tower garrison surrendered soon after. And this leads us to the Battle of Wakefield. Yo, time for the Battle of Wakefield, motherfuckers. We're about to get into it. They're about to get fucked up. Anyways, York went to Ireland, where he had unchallenged support, while Salisbury York's eldest son made the way to Calais. Warwick was constable, the narrowly forestalled the new Duke of Somerset again, which rolled up Lancastrian attempts to reassert the authority over Ireland, and Calais failed. Again, just recap, so everyone can say that. The vicious Lancastrians became reviled for the manner in which their army had looted the town of Ludlow after the Yorkist surrender at Ludford Bridge, and the repressive acts of a complaint parliament of devils which caused many uncommitted peers to fear for their own property and titles. The country remained in disorder because, again, they fucked that town up real bad. In 1460, the Nevilles invaded England through a foothold they had already established at Sandwich and then rapidly secured London. South. They would end up capturing the king. The Duke of York landed in Chester some weeks later, made his way to London with much pomp. Entering Parliament, he attempted to claim the throne, but was met with stunned silence. Even his close allies were not prepared to support such a drastic step. Instead, after the House of Lords had considered his claim, they passed the Act of Accord by which Henry would remain king, but York would govern the country as Lord Protector. Henry's son was disinherited, and York or his heirs would become king on Henry's death. The powerless and frightened Henry was forced to assent. So, yeah, after they captured him, they fucked him up, and then Richard was finally like, okay, I'm king now, bitches. And everyone was like, wait, hold up. What? That's what you're trying to do? And he's like, duh! No fucking duh. That's what I was trying to do. God damn it. I thought you were all understanding. It was just like, I didn't have to say anything because y'all were going to fucking get it once we captured everything. But no. He does become Lord Protector, though, which is essentially king. So anyways, the Lancastrian moves. When the Battle of Northampton was fought, Queen Margaret and her 7-year-old son Edward had been at Eccleshall Castle near Stafford. After many adventures with brigands and outlaws, again, crazy shenanigans, another shit that happened. I would love to get more into it, but this is already this is 3 parts. I could spend the next 40 fucking episodes talking about all this shit. But I don't want to. And, next week I do plan on talking about the Hatfields and McCoys. And I'm going to only have that. I'm going to have that be shorter, actually. I want it to be 1 episode if I can. So, they fled via a Cheshire to Harlech Castle in North Wales, where they joined Lancastrian nobles, including Henry's half-brother Jasper Tudor and the Duke of Exeter, who were recruiting armies in Wales and the West Country. They later proceeded by ship to Scotland, where Margaret gained troops and other aid for the Lancastrian cause from the Queen and Regent Mary of Wilders in return for the surrender of the town and castle of Berwick upon Tweed. At the same time, other Lancastrians were rallying in northern England, many of them, including Earl of Northumberland and Lords Clifford and Ross, had estates and influence in the north. They were later joined by the Duke of Somerset and Earl of Devon. And it's kind of a fucking lame name. You're the Earl of Devon. I feel like it's just he was the Earl of one person named Devon. Which is not true, he's in land, but still. Who brought their forces from the West Country, Northumberland. Clifford and Somerset were the sons of York's and Salisbury's rivals who had been killed at St. Albans. Lancastrian forces mustered near Kingston upon Hull and were said in Gregory's Chronicle to number 15,000. A substantial part of these forces encamped at Pontefract began pillaging York's and Salisbury's estates nearby. So the Yorks go ahead and respond by, if they're faced with these challenges to his authority as protector, York dispatched his eldest son Edward to the Welsh marches to contain the Lancastrians in the Wales and left the Earl of Warwick in charge of London. He himself marched to the north of England on December 9th, accompanied by his second son Edmund, Earl of Rutland, and the Earl of Salisbury. He tried to bring a train of artillery under one called Lovelace, a gentleman of Kent. But bad weather forced the artillery to return to London. So Lovelace, the gentleman of Kent, fucked him real hard there. You'll see later why. York's and Salisbury's armies were said by some to number 8,000 to 9,000 men, but by others to be only a few hundred strong. So there's a lot of debate if he brought just a couple hundred men because he was thinking, this is just going to be a little bit of greeting response, and then we'll get into an actual battle, or if he was bringing an army to try and fuck him up. As York intended to recruit local forces with the commission of array, he had probably underestimated both the numbers of the Lancastrian army in the north and the degree of opposition he had provoked by his attempt to seize the throne. he really did not understand why people would be upset. He's like, come on, guys, what is the big deal? I just tried to take over a throne. I don't understand what the problem is. On an earlier expedition to the north during his first protectorship in 1454, he and Neville's had easily subdued a rebellion by the Percys and the Duke of Exeter. In 1460, not only had almost every other northern peer joined the Lancastrian army, but York's nominal supporters were also divided. The Nevilles were one of the wealthiest and most influential families in the north, and in addition to controlling large estates, the Earl of Salisbury had held the office of Warden of the Eastern March for several years. However, in the Neville-Neville feud, again, whole other feud that we could talk about, another quarrel, the cadet branch of the family, headed by the Salisbury, had largely disinherited and eclipsed the senior branch, sometimes referred to as the Northern Nevilles. Under his great-nephew, the Earl of Westmoreland, Westmoreland had spent several years trying to recover his lands. He had since become too ill, perhaps with some mental disorder, to play any active part. His younger brother, John Neville of Raby, had much to gain by York's and Salisbury's destruction. The Lancastrians were still being reinforced, and so December 16th, at the Battle of Worksop in Nottinghamshire, York's vanguard clashed with Somerset's contingent from the west country, moving north to join the Lancastrian army, and was defeated. And the way that he was defeated is, it just sucked. He just got fucked over again by not having that goddamn artillery there. On the 21st of December, York reached his own fortress of Sandal Castle near Wakefield. He sent probes towards the Lancastrian camp at Pontefract, 9 miles or 14 kilometers to the east, but these were repulsed. York sent for help to his son Edward, but before any reinforcements could arrive, he sortied from the castle on the 30th of December. It is not known for certain why York did so. One theory was later recounted in Edward's Hall Chronicle, written a few decades after the event, but partly from first-hand sources. In the contemporary Burgundian John de Warren's Chronicle, in a stratagem possibly devised by the veteran Andrew Trollope, half the Lancastrian army under Somerset and Clifford advanced openly towards Sandal Castle over the open space known as Wakefield Green between the castle and the River Calder, while the remaining under Ross and the Earl of Wiltshire were concealed in the woods surrounding the area. York was probably short of provisions in the castle, and seeing the enemy were apparently no stronger than his own army, seized the opportunity to engage them in the open rather than withstand a siege while waiting for reinforcements. Other accounts suggested that, possibly in addition to Trollope's deception, York was fooled by some of John Neville of Raby's forces displaying false colors into thinking that reinforcements sent by Warwick had arrived. By another contemporary account, William Worcester's Annals Rerum and Gillicorum, John Neville himself obtained a commission of array from Richard of York to raise 8,000 men to fight on York's side under the Earl of Westmoreland. Having gathered this force and enticed York to leave the castle to rendezvous with him, John Neville then defected to the Lancastrians. Another suggestion was that York and Somerset had agreed to a truce during Christmas until the 6th of January, the Feast of Epiphany, but the Lancastrians had no intention of honoring the truce. On 3 successive days, they sent heralds to provoke York into premature action with insulting messages that read as, "Man, your dick's so tiny. Dude, I didn't know your dick was that tiny. Holy shit, you got a small penis." And when York moved into the open, because he was like, "No, I don't have a tiny penis. I got a big penis," and he tried to show it all. The Lancastrians treacherously attacked earlier than had been agreed, catching York at a disadvantage, while many of his men were absent foraging for supplies. The simplest suggestion was that York acted rashly. For example, historian John Sadler states that there was no Lancastrian deception or ambush. York led his men from the castle on a foraging expedition, and as successive Lancastrian contingents joined the battle, the last being Clifford's division encamped south and east of Sandal Magna, York's army was outnumbered, surrounded, and overwhelmed. The Yorkists marched out of Sandal Castle down the present-day Many Gates Lane toward the Lancastrians located to the north of the castle. It is generally accepted that as York engaged the Lancastrians to his front, others attacked him from flank and rear, cutting him off from the castle and Edward's Hall's wards. But when he was in the plain ground between the castle and the town of Wakefield, he was environed on every side, like a fish in a net or a deer in a buckstall, so that he, manfully fighting, was within half an hour slain and dead, and his whole army discomfited. Casualties. So besides, Richard of York, there was about 2,500 Yorkists and 200 Lancastrians that were killed. Other sources give widely different figures, from 2,200 to only 700 Yorkists dead. The Duke of York was either killed in battle or captured immediately executed. Some later works support the fulture that he suffered a crippling wound to the knee and was unhorsed, and he and his closest followers then fought to the death at that spot. Others relate the account that he was taken prisoner by one Sir James Luttrell of Devonshire, mocked by his captors, and beheaded. His son Edmund, Earl of Rowland, attempted to escape over Wakefield Bridge, but was overtaken and killed. Just everyone's fucking dying here. It's like the Red Wedding, honestly. Killed, possibly by Clifford in revenge for his father's death at St. Albans. Salisbury's second son, Sir Thomas Neville, also died in the battle. Salisbury's son-in-law, William Lord Harrington, and Harrington's father, William Bonville, were captured and executed immediately after the battle. The Bonvilles had been engaged in a feud with the Earl of Devon and Courtenay family in Devon and Cornwall. Salisbury himself had escaped the battlefield, but was captured during the night and was taken to the Lancastrian camp. Although the Lancastrian nobles might have been prepared to allow Salisbury to ransom himself, he was dragged out of Pontefract Castle and beheaded by local commoners, to whom he had been a harsh overlord, notably having fucked most of their wives. He tried to use the whole fornication under the King Act to actually have sex with their wives. And nobody liked that. So they're like, fuck that. We're going to kill this dude right now. No. No, he didn't. Or at least I haven't found anything that states that. The mob may have been led by the bastard of Exeter, an illegitimate son of the Duke of Exeter. Kind of like Ramsay. Oh man, so many Game of Thrones references. Crazy. Fucking crazy. Among the commoners in York's army who were killed was John Harrow, a prominent mercer of London, described as a captain of the foot. So, aftermath. After the battle, the heads of York, Rutland, Salisbury were displayed over Micklegate Bar, the southwestern gate through the York city walls, the Duke wearing a paper crown and a sign saying, "Let York overlook the town of York." The death of Richard of York did not end the wars or the House of York's claim to the throne. The Northern Lancastrian army, which had been victorious at Wakefield, was reinforced by Scots and borderers eager for plunder and marched south. They defeated Warwick's army at the Second Battle of St. Albans and recaptured the feeble-minded King Henry, who had been abandoned on the battle for a third time, but were refused entry to London and failed to occupy the city. Warwick and Edward of March reoccupied London, and within a few weeks, Edward of March was proclaimed King Edward IV. At the First Battle of St. Albans, York had been content with the death of his rivals for power. At Wakefield, in every battle, in the Battle of War, the Roses thereafter, the victors would eliminate not only any opposing leaders, but also their family members and supporters, making the struggle more bitter and revenge-driven. A monument erected on the spot where Duke of York is supposed to have perished is positioned slightly south of the more likely spot where an older monument once stood, but which was destroyed during an English Civil War. A cross in memory of York's son Rutland was erected at the Park Street end of Kirkgate in Wakefield. Archaeologist Rachel Askew suggests that the memorial cross to the Duke of York may be fictional, as the late 16th and early 17th century antiquarian John Camden did not mention it in his description of the location. And guys, that's that was another major battle. So I kind of spoiled a little bit. Edward does eventually become king, but then he loses the throne, and then the Tudors take over. And I'll get into that. I'll get into that a little more. Hey everyone, welcome back. So for those of you that did end up listening to the 50-minute episode that I released, This at the minute 54 mark is Tyler 3 days later. I got so busy this past 2 weeks that I just wasn't able to keep it up with a good recording schedule. So, yeah, I'm going ahead and I'm gonna just edit in the rest of this. I'm gonna do the rest of this today. We're gonna talk about the last couple battles, most notably the Battle of, let's see, Towtown, and then Tewkesbury, and then the end of the Lancastrian line, and then the Tudors taking over. So let's go ahead and get into this. The victors of Wakefield were joined by Margaret's army and marched south, plundering settlements along the way. They liberated Henry after defeating the Yorkist army of Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, in the Second Battle of St. Albans. You know, that's where they killed them. In case you guys don't remember, I mean, you did just listen to this. If you are, I don't even know how many people are listening, so fuck it. We're gonna get real central with the rest of this. The country now had two kings. Oh, fuck. A situation that could not be allowed to persist. Oh, especially if Edward would be formally crowned. Edward offered amnesty to any Lancastrian supporter who renounced Henry. And then he decided to fuck them too. He was gonna go full raw dog in them. Oh, you like that, don't you, you dirty slut? That's what Edward whispered into each of the Lancastrian troops that surrendered years as he began to uncloth himself and then showed his kingly cock. The young king summoned and ordered his followers to march towards York to take back his family city and depose Henry formally through force of arms. The Yorkist army moved along 3 routes. Warwick's uncle, Lord of Fauconberg, led Yorkist defenders of London sally against Fauconberg's besieging force. A group to clear the way to York, the main body, which was led by Edward. The Duke of Norfolk was also sent east to raise forces and rejoin Edward before the battle. That would come much later than anticipated. Warwick's group moved to the west of the main body, through the Midlands, gathering men as they went. On March 28th, the leading elements of the Yorkist army came upon the remains of the crossing and ferry bridge, crossing the river. Sorry, I don't know why. It's probably a solid 3 minutes of me just getting a little too intense about it. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know what came over me there. That was oh man, that was fun. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're back into this now. Okay, back into it. We're getting at it. We're gonna have a good time. We all love it. Right. Yeah, baby. You know you love it. So that's why we're continuing to talk like this. Anyways, sorry, I saw a light on my mic and I was like, what light is that? I haven't seen that light before. Da 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 da. Do 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 do. I'm going crazy. I'm going nuts. Anyways, the Yorkist army came upon the remains of the crossing ferry bridge in the River Aire. They were rebuilding the bridge when they were attacked and routed by a band of about 500 Lancastrians, led by Lord Clifford, the Big Red Dog. Anyways, after the Big Red Dog began his kaiju-like assault on the bridge was destroyed. And tales of this Clifford is what would actually lead, centuries later to the children's book, Clifford the Big Red Dog. But this Clifford murdered 1,000 people by itself. Fucking insane, right? No. Could you guys fucking imagine if Clifford the Big Red Dog was based off of like some mutant fucking beast that the English used to have and then died during the War of the Roses? That'd be I wish history was that cool. Learning of the encounter, Edward led the main Yorkist army to the bridge and was forced into a grueling battle. Although the Yorkists were superior in numbers, the narrow bridge was a bottleneck, forcing them to confront Clifford's men on equal terms. So I can't stop picturing it as Clifford the Big Red Dog. Sorry. Just killing them. Sorry. Edward sent Fauconberg and his horsemen to ford the river at Castleford, which should have been guarded by Henry, Earl of Northumberland. But he arrived late, by which time the Yorkists had crossed the ford and were heading to attack the Lancastrians at Ferrybridge from the flank. The Lancastrians retreated, but were chased to Dintingdale, where they were all killed, Clifford being slain by an arrow to his throat. Poor dog. I'm sorry. God. Just imagine like Clifford the Big Red Dog, and they had to get like a fucking ballista arrow to take him down. Oh man, if any of my listeners are artists, if you could draw 16th, or I guess like 17th century, no, it'd be 15th century, I was right the first time, 16th century Clifford fighting one of the War of the Roses battles, I will, I don't know, I'll suck your dick, even if you don't have a dick, I'll suck it, that's how it works. They retreated. Clifford was killed. Having cleared the vicinity of enemy forces, the Yorkists repaired the bridge and pressed. So the bridge was destroyed. Oh man, just makes the whole Clifford theory even better. The bridge ended up getting just smushed down by his weight. He was too big. God damn it. And pressed onwards to the camp overnight at Sherburn and Elmlet. The Lancastrian army marched to Tadcaster, about 2 miles north of Towtown, and made camp. As dawn broke, the two rival armies struck camp under dark skies and strong winds. Although it was Palm Sunday, a day of holy significance to Christians, the forces prepared for battle because God doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I need this person to be king. I don't give a fuck about Palm Sunday. You better murder your opponents for me. Thus saith the Lord. And I say it through the Pope. Or I say it through whichever king you're following right now. They named the engagement Battle of Palm Sunday and Field, but the name did not gain wide acceptance. Popular opinion favored naming the battle after the village of Towton. Yorkists, let's see, because of its proximity and it being the most prominent in the area. Because again, back then they were like, I don't remember sinning. God will be upset. we can't let him know. We can't let him know that we actually fought on Palm Sunday. Just say it was the Battle of Towton or something. And God's just like, really? You think I don't know already? Lightning! Just kidding. I'm going crazy, guys. I'm losing it today. Woohoo! The armies gathered at Towton were among the largest at the time. Contemporary sources, like Gregory's Chronicle, claim that the soldiers on each side numbered in the hundreds of thousands. These figures are thought to be exaggerated, and modern historians believe that a combined figure of 50 to 65,000 is more likely. Still fucking huge. Like, that's just a ton of people. That's a stadium full of people going at it and killing each other with swords. Bows and arrows, cannons. Good times. Between 1% and 2% of the English population at the time. Analysis of 50 skeletons found in mass graves between 1996 and 2003 showed most were about 24 to 30 years old and were veterans of previous engagements. They also found multiple bruises to their hip bone from being ravaged so much by the Lancastrians. The Lancastrians and the Yorks actually to each other. Okay. they fucked each other for one night right after Palm Sunday, as they knew they were all about to die. And they did it so fiercely and vigorously that they left bruises on each other's bones. Wow. Well, okay. Do what you gotta do, I guess. Henry's physical and mental frailty was a major weakness for the Lancastrian cause, and he remained in York with Margaret. In contrast, the 18-year-old Edward was a tall and imposing sight in armor and led from the front. His preference for bold defensive tactics determined the Yorkists' plan of action for this engagement. His presence and example were crucial to ensure the Yorkers held together through the long and exhausting struggle. His 2.5-foot-long cock. Really? Wow, 24 inches. That's, well, I guess 30 inches. 30-inch long dick. That's probably the biggest in the world. Would help spear some of the Lancastrians during their night of orgy. He was said to have not been thrusted upon, and this made him more, I don't know, just looked at goodly to like lead, because like no man could like pierce his butthole since it was so tight. And then he was like piercing 2 to 3 dudes at a time. So, you know, good for Edward. Approximately 3/4 of English, okay, you know, the whole orgy thing's nonsense. I know you know that. I'm just having fun. I'm having so much fun. Anyways, after they all fought each other, the Warwick was absent for the battle for the Yorkist leaders, having suffered a leg wound at Ferrybridge. Norfolk was too old to participate at this point, and his contingent was commanded by Walter Blount and Robert Hone. This may have been an advantage, since he was regarded as an unpredictable ally. Well, you know, that's good. Edward relied heavily on Warwick's uncle, Lord Fauconberg, a veteran of Anglo-French wars, highly regarded by contemporaries for his military skills. He demonstrated this in a wide range of roles, having captained of the Calais garrison, led naval piracy expeditions in the Channel, and commanded the Yorkist vanguard at Northampton. The senior Lancastrian general is Henry Beaufort, Duke of Somerset, an experienced leader. Credited with victories at Wakefield and St. Albans, although others suggest they were due to Sir Andrew Trollope. Trollope was an extremely experienced and astute commander who served under Warwick and Calais before defecting to the Lancastrians at Ludford Bridge in 1459. Other notable Lancastrian leaders included Henry Holland, Duke of Exeter, and northern magnates, the Earl of Northumberland, Lord de Ross, and Lord Dacre. Another leading Lancastrian, Lord Clifford, had been killed by an arrow at the Ferrybridge. Poor big red dog. So after they began deploying, the fighting would commence. Somerset was content to stand and let his foes come to him. The opening move of the battle was made by the Yorkists. Noting the direction and the strength of the wind, Fauconberg ordered all Yorkist archers to step forward and unleash a volley of their arrows. So Yorkists start first, and the Lancastrians end up, shooting back. And after they lose their orders, Fauconberg orders his archers to step forward and again to shoot. So it was a big, huge, back and forth of volleying, essentially, with just arrows. And after that, they began to siege forward. Well, the Yorkists did. They went in for it. Fighting continued for about 3 hours, according to English Heritage, a government body in charge of conservation for historic sites. It was indecisive until the arrival of Norfolk's men. Marching up the old London road, Norfolk's contingent was hidden from view until they crested the ridge and attacked the Lancastrian left flank. The Lancastrians continued to give fight, but the advantage had shifted to the Yorkists. By the end of the day, the Lancastrian line had broken up, as small groups of men began fleeing for their lives. Polydore Virgil, a chronicler for Henry VII of England, claimed that combat lasted for a total of 10 hours. 10 fucking hours of just nonstop fighting in armor. I just want you guys to imagine how sore you would be. It would fucking suck. So anyways, the Yorkists... Okay, so Yorkists... I need to go back here. Okay. On receiving news of their family's defeat, Henry fled into exile in Scotland. Oh, yeah. So Lancastrians lose, if you couldn't tell. They got outflanked and then fucked up. So Yorks win this one. He went into Scotland with his wife and son. They were later joined by Somerset, Ross, Exeter, and the few Lancastrian nobles who escaped from the battlefield. The Battle of Towton severely reduced the power of House Lancaster in England. The linchpins of their power at court, Umberland, Clifford, Ross, and Dacre, had either died or fled the country, ending the house's domination over north of England. Edward further exploited the situation, naming 14 Lancastrian peers as traitors. Approximately 96 Lancastrians of the rank of knight and below were also attainted, 24 of them members of parliament. The new king preferred winning over his enemies to his cause. The nobles he attained either died in the battle or had refused to submit to him. Which, that makes sense. I think I'd be more of a fan of, well, fuck it, kill them all. No reason to keep them. The estates of a few of these nobles were confiscated by the crown, but the rest were untouched, remaining in the care of their families. Edward also pardoned many of those he attained after they submitted to his rule. Okay, well, that's fair. As long as they submitted and, then they were pardoned. They probably got a little fucked up, though, in prison. They probably just got, spit on or peed on or something. Probably peed on. Although Henry was at large in Scotland with his son, the battle put an end, for the time being, to disputes over the country's state of leadership. Since the Act of Accord, the English people were assured that there was now one true king, Edward. He turned his attention to consolidating his rule over the country, winning over the people, and putting down rebellions raised by the few remaining Lancastrian diehards. Man, could you fucking imagine just being being alive back then, and then you're so pro Lancastrian, you're like, nah, fuck this. I don't care if we lost and everyone is pretty much gone. I'm staying here till I die. God damn. He ended up knighting. So Edward would knight several of his supporters and elevated several of his gentry supporters to the peerage. He's just a status raise. That's really it. Fauconberg was made Earl of Kent. Warwick benefited from Edward's rule after the battle. He received parts of Northumberland and Clifford's holdings. He received Clifford's doghouse. And was made the king's lieutenant in the north and admiral of England. Edward bestowed on him many offices of power and wealth, further enhancing the earl's considerable influence and riches. By 1464, the Yorkists had wiped out all effective Lancastrian resistance in the north of England. Edward's reign was not interrupted until 1470. By then, his relationship with Warwick had deteriorated to such an extent that the Earl defected to the Lancastrians and forced Edward to flee England, restoring Henry to the throne. And the reason for this is Edward had promised to essentially bone Warwick, and he didn't. He was like, nah, I can't do that. It's gross, man. You're like my uncle. And Warwick was like, well, why not? Come on, man. You said you would. And then he didn't. So then he ran over to the Lancastrians. Obviously not. The interruption of Yorkist rule was brief, as Edward regained his throne after defeating Warwick and his Lancastrian cohorts at the Battle of Barnet in 1471. Which then gets us to the Battle of Tewkesbury. Anyways, after the fugitive King Henry was captured and imprisoned the next year, his wife, Margaret, and the 13-year-old son, Edward of Westminster, were exiled and impoverished in France. Edward IV's hold on the throne appeared to be secure, at least temporarily. Edward owed his victory in large measure to the support of his cousin, Earl of Warwick. And okay, let's see. They became estranged when Edward spurned the French diplomatic marriage that Warwick was seeking for him and instead married Elizabeth Woodville, widow of an obscure Lancastrian gentleman, in secret in 1464. So this is like a Robb Stark moment where he betrayed, what's their bucket? The fucking old creepy dude who probably bones his daughters. Fuck. What was his name? Can't remember his name. Damn it. Anyways, that's the reason why Warwick betrayed him. When the marriage became public knowledge, Edward placed many of his new queen's family in powerful positions that Warwick had hoped to control. Edward, meanwhile, reversed Warwick's policy of friendship with France by marrying his sister Margaret to Charles the Bold, the Duke of Burgundy. The embittered Warwick secured the support of Edward IV's brother George Plantagenet, the first Duke of Clarence, for a coup in exchange for Warwick's promise to crown Clarence king. Although Edward was imprisoned briefly, Clarence was unacceptable as monarch to most of the country. Edward was allowed to resume his rule. Outwardly reconciled with Warwick and Clarence. Within a year, though, he accused them of fresh treachery and forced them to flee to France. So he, essentially, after he got back out, because everybody was like, no, why the fuck is Clarence king? Edward was like, yo, man, listen, I forgive you guys. And then, like, in the back of his mind, he's like, no, I don't. I'm gonna fucking kill both of you, and you both fucking know it. You better run. And so they did. They ran to France. With no hope of reconciliation with King Edward, Warwick's best hope of regaining power in England lay in restoring Henry the Sixth to the throne. Louis XI of France feared a hostile alliance of Burgundy under Charles the Bold and England under Edward. He was prepared to support Warwick with men and money, but to give legitimacy to any uprising by Warwick, the acquiescence of Margaret of Anjou was required. Warwick and Margaret were previously sworn enemies, but her attendants, in particular Sir John of Fortescue, and Louis eventually persuaded her to ally the House of Lancaster with Warwick. At the Angers, Warwick begged her pardon on his knees for all past wrongs done to her, and was forgiven, because she had no other fucking choice. And then that's like looking at the one thing you'd need to hopefully get your life back, and then if you were dumb enough, you'd still spit on it. It'd be like, nah, get out of here. I don't want you. Of course she fucking did. Prince Edward was betrothed to Warwick's younger daughter, Anne. The marriage was eventually solemnized at Amboy on the 13th of December, 1470, but may not have been consummated as Margaret was seeking a better match for Edward once he was king. Are you kidding me? They probably boned. Are you kidding me? They fucking boned. I don't care how old he was. He was probably like 15. Yeah, they boned. Finally, they swore loyalty to Henry VI on a fragment of the True Cross in Angers Cathedral. However, Margaret declined to let Prince Edward land in England or land there herself until Warwick had established a firm government and made the country safe for them. Warwick landed in West Country on the 13th of September, 1470, accompanied by Clarence and some unswerving Lancastrian nobles, including the Earl of Oxford and, guess what, guys, Jasper Tudor. This is where it begins. The Earl of Pembroke. As King Edward made his way south to face Warwick, he realized that Warwick's brother John, Marquess of Montagu, who had up until then remained loyal to Edward, had defected. At the head of a large army in the north of England, Edward fled to King's Lynn, where he took ship for Flanders, part of Burgundy, accompanied only by his youngest brother, Richard of Gloucestershire, and a few faithful adherents. In London, Warwick released King Henry, led him in procession to St. Paul's Cathedral, and installed him in Westminster Palace. Warwick's position nevertheless remained precarious. His alliance with Louis of France and his intention to declare war on Burgundy was contrary to the interests of the merchants, as it threatened English trade with Flanders and the Netherlands. Because you can't fuck with the Netherlands. People learn that lesson real fast in history, okay? Yeah, actually, I'm kidding. I have no idea what I'm saying right now. I'm so loopy, guys. Like, I'm not even drunk. I'm just loopy. I should get drunk. Nah. It's not even time to get crunk right now. Too tired to get crunk, okay? You can't get crunk when you're that tired. For the rest of this, I'm going to talk this close to the mic, and I'm gonna hope that you all enjoy it, because I am. Anyways, after Clarence had long been excluded from Warwick's calculations, in November 1470, Parliament declared that Prince Edward and his putative descendants were Henry's heirs to the throne. Clarence would become king only if the Lancastrian line of succession failed. Unknown to Warwick, Clarence secretly became reconciled with his brother, King Edward. Dun dun dun! With Warwick in power in England, it was Charles of Burgundy's turn to fear a hostile alliance of England and France that we had talked about before. You know, they were a little worried. About that shit going down because that would fuck them over. And so anyways, he evaded troops of Warwick's brother Montague. By the time Edward reached the town of Warwick, they'd gathered enough supporters to claim himself king again, so that's how he did it. Edward, however, knew Clarence was ready to turn his coat once again and betray Warwick, his father-in-law. He marched rapidly west and joined with Clarence's men, who were approaching from Gloucestershire. Clarence appealed to Warwick to surrender, but Warwick refused to even speak to him because, you know, he betrayed him after he betrayed Edward and then betrayed him again. Fucking crazy. Edward's army made rapidly for London, pursued by Warwick and Montague. London, supposedly defended by the 4th Duke of Somerset, but he was absent, and the city readily admitted Edward. The unfortunate and now feeble Henry VI was sent back to the Tower of London. This guy, fucking Henry VI, just keeps getting sent back and forth. You're free. You're not free. You're free. You're not free. No wonder he was fucking crazy. But the whole time, like every time he was out, he's like, I'm going back in, guys. Don't worry about it. Edward then turned about to face Warwick's approaching. Do you guys think he got like Stockholm syndrome? Do you think like he was just like happy Edward was king and like he like loved him secretly for it? He was like, oh, thank you. Please put me back in the tower. I'd like to go back to the tower, please. Oh. Okay, in a confused fight in thick fog, some of Warwick's army attacked each other by mistake, and cries of treachery, his army disintegrated and was routed. Fuck yeah. Warwick was cut down trying to reach his horse to escape. So, anyways, yeah, so Warwick loses that one. But because of this, King Edward's army was composed mainly of mounted men who never dismounted to fight on foot, as most English armies did during this period, hearing from pickers and mounted scouts. Because Margaret ended up getting her own army and decided to like push on him. The Lancastrians knew they could retreat no further before Edward attacked their rear, and it would be forced to give the battle. So, after all of that, among the leading Lancastrians who died on the field were Somerset's younger brother John, Beaufort, Marquis of Dorset, and Earl of Devon. The Prince of Wales was slain on the field during the retreat by some of Clarence's men, despite pleading for help to Clarence, who had sworn allegiance to him in France barely a year before. Which is super fucked. Many other Lancastrian nobles and knights sought sanctuary in Tewkesbury Abbey. King Edward attended prayers in the abbey shortly after the battle. He granted permission for the Prince of Wales and others slain in battle to be buried within the abbey or elsewhere in the town without being quartered as traitors, as was customary. However, 2 days after the battle, Somerset and other leaders were dragged out of the abbey and ordered by Gloucestershire and the Duke of Norfolk to be put to death after perfunctory trials. Among them were High Courtenay, cousin of the Earls of Devon, and Sir John Langstrother, the prior of the Military Order of St. John. The abbey wasn't officially a sanctuary. It had to be reconsecrated a month after the battle, following the violence done within its precincts. Oh, man. Could you imagine like a battle being that bloody that the church was like, no, we can't fucking have this be consecrated. We got to wait a little bit. Let all the evil spirits go away. Anyways, a few days later, Queen Margaret sent word from Edward from her refuge that she was at his commandment, essentially giving up at that point. Edward was unable to rest after battle. Lancastrians under Jasper Tudor were still active in Wales, and there was an ineffective rising in the north. Edward went to Coventry in the Midlands to make dispositions against the northern and Welsh Lancastrians and give his army 3 days rest. The most dangerous Lancastrian force, however, was that commanded by the Bastard of Fauconberg. As anticipated, he had landed at Sandwich and rapidly recruited a force among the pro-Neville Kentishmen, together with exiled Lancastrians and free booters from several countries. His army may have numbered 16,000 or even 17,000 in total. On the 14th of May, he attacked London from the south. His men burned part of the suburb of Southwark, but were beaten back at London Barge the next day. They attacked Aldgate and Bishopgate from the east. The garrison of the Tower of London, led by Earl Rivers, Queen Elizabeth's brother, who had been injured, and Barnet, repulsed them. Citizens defending their property undoubtedly played a major role, because they're like, no, fuck you, get out of here. Had Falconbrook succeeded in capturing the city, he might have also captured Edward's wife and their children and released King Henry from the tower. However, on hearing that Edward's army was approaching, he retreated to Sandwich. Like Margaret, he appeared to be dispirited by the news of Tewkesbury and the prince's death, and later rather tamely surrendered himself and his ships. He was executed 5 months later after attempting to escape from custody, probably because he was going to be killed anyways. And that leads us to the end of the Lancastrian line and the end of the wars. As after Edward, the Tudor dynasty begins because they began to name the descendants Tudors, or like they weren't actually Tudors. Tudors, they would have been pissed to hear that name back then, because that would have implied some fuckery that like they weren't worthy heirs or whatever. So let's get out of this lesson, guys. Good job, students. Proud of you. I had fun, and I hope you did too. I'll see you for the next class. All right, everyone. That is the end of the War of the Roses. I am so sorry that I took that long to finish and to get everything completely done. I just got super busy with work and life. And, to be honest, right now, since I do have a full-time job and I do have kids and I have a wife and I have a life outside of everything, this isn't as a priority right now. I'd love it to be. I would absolutely love this podcast to be something that I did as a job, but I can't right now. And, maybe one day if I get good enough at it and people begin to enjoy this content more and, it's something that they see value in and they begin to want to help support it, help support me. Of course I'll do more. But I need more people to listen and to support it. This might go from being weekly to bi-weekly, just depending on, my timeline of things. Next time, because I don't know if it will be next week, we'll be going over the Hatfields and the McCoys. My wife is a descendant of the Hatfields. Her grandma is the granddaughter of someone Hatfield, and apparently has some stories that not a lot of historians have about it. So get ready for that. I'm pretty excited. I think that's going to be very interesting to get a different take on it. Of course, from the Hatfield sides, which for many people, they don't like the Hatfields. So, yeah, guys, I don't know. I have a lot of fun doing this, but it does take quite a bit of time, especially if I want it to be good. This War of the Roses, the script for it was 150 pages, which is, about half of a good book, half the length of a good book. So I want to keep doing this, but I probably can't do anything like this long. And then just finding time, I guess, to have it be really well researched. I don't know. I might have to, break time up, or just find different ways to get things researched better. I don't know. It's really hard. I want to provide a good content for you guys. My skill lies more in writing out jokes or doing little fake outs, because I feel like there's some where I can get really creative and I can actually, do a pretty decent fake out, have you guys believe some false information for a bit. But I don't know. I feel like the enjoyment of this is listening to it, having fun. I'm hoping I don't sound really drowned out or boring. if that's the case, let me know, because I think I might have to just like change my inflection while I'm talking. I mean, there are moments where I'm like, I'll listen to it. I'm like, okay, Tyler, you need to pick it up. You know, you need to change it up here. But I don't know. I can get better at this. I know I can. I need, I need to change up my fluctuation a little bit, make it, as I'm telling the story, just give it more gravitas, more importance. I don't know. I tried that earlier with doing like the whole, and they did this and this and this thing. So let me know if you guys like that. Let me know what you guys like, what you don't like. I would seriously love some feedback, because I'm obviously not trying to make a career out of this. I have a career. I'm trying to have fun, but it is a hobby, and it's something that I want to get better at, you know? And it's something that I enjoy doing and I'm having fun with. I love writing. I love joking around and just having fun. So, and I know a lot of this is inspired by Dan Cummins and his show Time Suck. And I know I'm not like replacing him at all. And like that was not my goal at all. My goal was just to have something kind of fun that kind of goes over parts of history that I like, you know, mostly like the petty quarrels or like beef or just like fights in general and wars. I love that stuff. I think it's super interesting. And I think that's how the world really got shaped, was by the wars that we've had throughout history. The quarrels and arguments. You know, like for Robert Hooke and Newton, their scientific quarrels led to a lot of discovery. A lot of things that we use today. So, I don't know. I find that stuff interesting. I think the War of the Roses, if I'm being very honest, didn't amount to a whole lot besides getting the Plantagenets off the throne. I think in terms of battle tactics, there's some interesting maneuvering that went on that would become standard. Other than that, though, I mean, routing and defending were pretty commonplace already. I think the surprise attacks and then like the subterfuge and the political play was very important. So getting people to switch sides became huge and became pretty much the standard. And obviously its effect would be the Tudor dynasty, which would give us, you know, one horrible king and then one really good queen who would change the world, essentially. So, I don't know. Overall, probably worth it, in my opinion. Because Henry VI fucking sucked. So, I don't know, guys. I don't think it would have needed to have been so blunt. Like, they probably didn't need to fight all that much, but maybe they did. They probably could have done a few more assassinations, more Game of Thrones stuff. There was no fucking dragons in this, and that made that boring. Though, Clifford the Big Red Dog was kind of a dragon, if you think about it. He's a kaiju. So, we had a kaiju in the battle. That was cool. But yeah. Anyways, I'm pretty much done. I'm done on this, but I'll probably bring up Clifford the Big Red Dog fighting in the War of the Roses for later episodes. But yeah, guys, please let me know what you like, what you don't like, what I can do better. I don't know. If there's anything that I can practice to, you know, improve on, I'll do it. So let me know. And thank you for listening. I seriously appreciate it. And I seriously appreciate the support. You know, I'm trying to convince my friends and family to support me more. And, you know, I guess it's just weird for them to listen to it because they're just like, oh, that's Tyler. That's weird. So it's different, you know. But yeah, you know, you guys, the strangers, people that I'd love to get to know better and talk. I mean, like my socials are on here. You guys can message me on Instagram or wherever, and I'm happy to respond. I'll do it. I'll respond until I get like big enough where it's like really hard to respond to that many people. But I'll do my darndest to respond to that many people. So, and that's like a big if. I mean, who knows? I might only just have like 20 to 30 people that I talk to like twice or 4 times a month. And if that becomes the case, great. I love the 20 to 30 people that love this too. So, and I'll keep doing that for you guys. But yeah, keep on being interested in this stuff. Keep on researching things, look up stuff yourself. It's fun. It's interesting. I never got taught this stuff in school because I live in America. So, I didn't really know anything about how England's history is really shaped, which is really the prelude to the American Civil War as well, is, because of all of this. So, and then the changing of like religions for the entire country. Yeah, it's crazy shit. Anyways, I'm rambling now. That's probably a big thing I need to work on, is like not rambling and just have like a straight shot here at the end. I just don't know what else to talk about. But yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Get ready for the Hatfields and McCoys, or as I like to call it, Civil War Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Bye.